First and foremost, I want to say shalom unto Israel, and I want to give all praises unto Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. What we're gonna go into tonight is just a quick little lesson, a quick little breakdown, and give you some understanding regarding the Maccabees and the Feast of Dedication, or what they call the Feast of Lights. It's also known as Hanukkah in the scriptures. Hanukkah is a Hebrew word, what is it? Hanukkah? Yeah. HANUKAH, if I'm not mistaken. Alright. Which means, it literally means dedication. Alright, that's what the word Hanukkah means. It means dedication. Alright, so let's go to the book of the first book we're gonna go to is the book of Maccabees, the first chapter, Salaki, the second chapter, and first verse. You can start at the first verse, and we're gonna read on down to the ninth verse.
All right. It's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 1.
Right, and by the way, real quick, for those of you that don't know what we're reading out of the book called the Apocrypha, and this is the King James. You see in the right here it says authorized King James version. Okay, when you do some research, you find out that the original King James Bible had what they call the Apocrypha. It was in that book. All right, but they took it out. All right, but go ahead, read on. Some Catholic Bibles still contain the Apocrypha in it. All right, but go ahead.
All right, it's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 2. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jerib.
Right, so this brother Mattathias was a Levite. He was from the tribe of Levi. All right, the tribe of lawyer in the Hebrew tongue. Go ahead.
A priest of the sons of Jerib, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modim. And he had 5 sons: Johanan, called Cadiz; Simon, called the Sea; Judas, who was called Maccabees.
Right, and Maccabees, all right, Maccabees, the word Maccabees means hammer, all right, or it meant hammer, okay? But it also, and the reason why they called him the hammer was because, you know, he led Israelites, armies of Israel, to you know, he brought that hammer down on them Romans, man. All right, on them Greeks and them Romans. Okay, so he brought the hammer down on them, so they called him the Maccabees. But it's also a play out on a Hebrew word, or a Hebrew war cry. Okay, if you go to the book of Exodus, the 15th chapter and the 11th verse. All right, it's also a play on this war cry, and this war cry, or this saying rather, is throughout the scriptures. What we about to read. All right, it's also in the book of Proverbs, the book of Psalms. It's all throughout there. But read what you got, brother.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 15, verse 11. Who is like unto thee, O Lord?
Right, who is like unto thee, O Yahweh? All right, and that's what Maccabees, right? When you read who is like unto thee in the Hebrew, this is how you would say it. It would be Maya Kamaka. Maya Kamaka Ba'alam. All right, and if you look at that word Maya Kamaka Ba'alam, that has the word, you know what I'm saying? You could see the word Maccabee in that word. All right, so it's Maya Kamaka Balaam Yahweh. Who is like unto thee, O Yahweh? So that was the war cry of the Maccabees, all right, of the hammer. Who is like unto thee, O Yahweh? That was their war cry. Just like you have Israelites today. You know, one of our war cries, one of our highly spread out war cry among all camps, right, is what? Kwam Yasha'Allah. Kwam Yasha'Allah. Raise Israel, rise Israel. That's one of our mighty war cries in our time. Okay? But so I just wanted to give you that little jewel right there. But read on. Read back in Maccabees real quick.
All right.
Was that in Exodus?
No, there was more.
Go ahead, read on. Finish that out.
It says, who is like unto thee, O Yahweh, among the gods?
Right, among the gods. Ain't nobody like unto Yahweh. Allah is not like unto Yahweh, because Allah, first of all, Allah is just a Hebrew word that means power. Okay, and there were many Allahs. There was, Allah was also, that title or that phrase Allah was also used to signify false gods, idols. All right, and Allah today, whom people, the second biggest religion on this planet Earth right now calls on Allah, which are these Muslims, which is nothing but an idol. All right, is that it?
Nope.
Go ahead, read on.
Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders?
Right, doing wonders, and that's what the Father did for the Israelites during the time of the Maccabees. He did glorious wonders for Israel. If you read when you read the history of the Maccabees and these 5 brothers, all right, and five is in numerology, all right, and according to the scriptures in numerology, 5 represent power. So these brothers received power from the Most High to go against these Romans, these Greeks and these Romans, and take down and push back these Edomites, man. And these Edomites at this time were attempting to destroy Israel. All right, not destroy us just physically, but they was trying to destroy us spiritually. All right, they had laws, they passed creedings where you was not allowed to read the scriptures. You was not allowed to read the scrolls. You was not allowed to circumcise your son. All right, they had all these different when they took over the temple, they was having sexual orgies within the temple of the Most High. They sacrificed swine's flesh upon the altar of the Most High. So they defiled the temple.
Mm-hmm. On all sides. On
all sides. They had our people, our men, right? Our young men, they had them exercising in what they call gymnasiums, butt-ass naked. Wrestling butt-ass naked, rubbing baby oil all over themselves. Similar to what these devils are doing today. They tricked our sons to think that's okay. That's why you look on these stupid social media sites and all you see is a bunch of these XYZ people, man. LGBTQ XYZTH. They got all type of alphabets.
All them letters, man.
They got all the letters in the alphabet, man. They try to what they call alphabet boys, man. That's dumb. All right, you don't know what the hell going on no more, man. You know what I'm saying? They got the nerve. They got a nerve to like if you how you say if you're a lesbian, right? They got a thing where if you're a lesbian, but you don't want to date a transsexual man, you're like this. You know what I'm saying? It's some crazy madness that they got going on, man. I don't even know the whole politics about it, but they say that they're bigots.
It's too much, man.
It's crazy right now. That's why the Most High said this place is Babylon the Great, man. It's Babylon the Great. You got what they call that cancel culture, right? They cancel you if you speak out against this stuff, man.
Everybody
right?
canceled.
Yeah, I've been canceled. I don't give a damn about being canceled. You can cancel me all you want. You ain't gonna stop the work of the Most High. And ain't gonna stop what the Father got going on around here. Okay, but read that again.
All right.
That's verse 11, right?
You still in Exodus?
Yeah, Exodus. Yeah, 15 and 11.
All right. This book of Exodus, chapter 15, verse 11. Who is like unto thee, O Yahweh, among the gods? Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders?
Right, doing wonders, man. And that's what the Most High did among the Maccabees. He did wonders amongst them brothers because they were highly outnumbered. And they had to resist a wicked campaign from Esau. What was his name?
Start with an A, right, my man?
Yeah, we're probably gonna read about it. I forget his name offhand. But go ahead. Oh, go back to Maccabees.
Back to the Maccabees.
Yeah, I believe it was Agrippa. Was it Agrippa?
I don't know if it was Agrippa with these guys.
All right, go ahead, read on. We'll get the name.
Yeah, he's gonna come up.
We'll get the
He's
name.
gonna come up. I know the name at the tip of my tongue too.
Yeah, but go ahead.
But it's the book of Maccabees, First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 4. Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar, called Avaran.
Right, and Eleazar, that's the brother that he did a heroic act when he tried to when he went and slew an elephant. Right, matter of fact, let's get that story real quick. Get hold that and get First Maccabees, the 6th chapter and the 43rd verse. 6:43.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
It's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 6, verse 43. Eleazar, also surnamed Zavaran, perceiving that one of the beasts armed with royal harness was
right, and that was an elephant. I believe this was the last battle. They had they had 3 campaigns, if I'm not mistaken, against the Israelites at that time, or the Jews. All right. So in other words, after the revolt, they came against them 3. If I'm not mistaken, it was 3 separate times, and each time Israel defeated them. All right. And I believe this was the last campaign that they tried to take down Israel.
And I believe it's Antiochus. That's the king.
Antiochus.
Antiochus.
Yeah, Antiochus Epiphanes. All right, Antiochus Epiphanes. And Antiochus Epiphanes, the name, and I believe the name meant God on earth or something like that, or God in the flesh. So he believed himself to be God, all right, to be God himself, But go ahead, and Antiochus Epiphanes meant the madman. I believe Epiphanes was given to him by Israel, by the Maccabees, or by the Jews, and it meant Antiochus the madman. They called him the madman. This dude is crazy. All right, go ahead.
Read that again. It's book of First Maccabees, chapter 6, verse 43. Eleazar also, surnamed Zavaran, perceiving that one of the beasts armed with royal harness was higher than all the rest.
Right, and this was elephants. They came through with these giant ass elephants, man. All right, not these little elephants that you see in the Brooklyn Zoo. Okay, they had giant bigger than what you see now in Africa running around. They had these giant damn elephants with big what they call them, the tusks. All right, and what they used to do was they trained these elephants in the war, and they would give them gallons of wine and strong drink, so that when they went out to war, they just went crazy.
Crazy out there.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this king, the king was upon this elephant. The brother Eleazar, he figured that that's where, because it was the biggest of all the elephants. And the thing that they had on top of it, all right, was bigger than all the other ones.
It's a royal harness.
It was royal. It was decked out more than any other ones. So he figured the king was on that one. So I got to get this elephant. I got to take this elephant down. Go ahead.
All right. So it says, armed with royal harness, was higher than all the rest, and supposing that the king was upon him, put himself in jeopardy, to the end he might deliver his people, and get him a perpetual name. Wherefore he ran upon him courageously through the midst of the battle, slaying on the right hand and on the left.
Right, he was a great warrior. You see that and this wasn't no movie, man. This wasn't IMAX theater. All right, this wasn't no CGI. This was real life battle, man. This brother was slaying dudes on the right hand side and on the left hand side, slaying them so bad that they parted the way for him. Go ahead.
So that they were divided from him on both sides.
Right. It looked like they parted the way. They ain't parted the way. There was just a bunch of dead bodies all around them. A straight line of dead bodies. And if you look at ancient warfare, right, it was chaos. It was total chaos going on. People was getting their arm chopped off, their leg chopped off, their head chopped off. Go ahead.
Verse 46. Which done, he crept under the elephant and thrust him under and slew him.
He thrust him under. He ripped the elephant's guts out with a sword. Go ahead.
Whereupon the elephant fell down upon him, and there he died.
Right, but he didn't realize that he gave his life up to take this elephant down, and ended up dying underneath the elephant. All right, go back to First Maccabees 2 and read verse 5 again.
It's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 5. Eleazar called Avaron and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphos. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem,
right, these were blasphemies. Like I said, they was having all type of sexual orgies and so forth on the altar in the temple, all over Jerusalem, doing gay acts. All right, they were sacrificing swine's flesh in Jerusalem. They were causing Israelites to eat swine's flesh, to eat pork. And these things happened. These things were going on for about 10 years before the Maccabees and Matthias and his sons rose up and came with the revolt. So Esau was doing these things for about 10 years. Go ahead.
He said, verse 7. He said, "Woe is me."
Right, they had enough of it. Because they began to ban Bibles, not Bibles, because they didn't have Bibles like this, but they had scrolls. All right, they had the scrolls. Certain people had books and they had their own scrolls. So they began to burn the scrolls. They were burning the scrolls. They were not allowing us to congregate and study the scriptures or study these scrolls or read about our history. They were trying to wipe out the history of Israel. What the Greeks were doing, they was trying to bring us into they was trying to Hellenize us, man.
Hellenize us, right?
Hellenize us.
Yeah.
They were trying to Hellenize us, destroy our culture, and give us Greek culture.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And one thing about Israel, we always rebelled against that. We always rebelled against them trying to destroy us in that way. Okay, go ahead.
He said, "Woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people."
Right, he said, "Woe is me, wherefore was I born to see the misery of my people." He couldn't bear to see the misery of his people. Go ahead.
"And of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers." Verse 8. "Her temple is become as a man without glory.
Go ahead.
Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy."
Right, so all these things was happening, man. And like I said, this was something that was happening. This was going on for about 10 years. They brought idols within the temple. They caused our people to bow down to these idols. All right, they had our people, they passed a law that you was not to circumcise your son. If you was caught circumcising your sons, they would put you to death and your son. They had laws, they would force you to eat swine's flesh. So they was doing all these wicked things to destroy Israel. And like I said, this was about a 10-year campaign that they had before the Maccabees, said it was enough, man. Or before Matthias and his son said, man, this is enough. We not taking this no more. And these brothers got together with some other Israelites, all right, and they defeated these Greeks and these Romans, man. These Edomites. All right, go to the book of let's get the 2nd Maccabees, the 10th chapter and the 2nd verse. Once you get it, you can read it.
All right. You said second Maccabees, right?
Second Maccabees. Yeah. Matter of fact, start at verse 1.
Second Maccabees 10.
And we going to read to verse 9.
All right. It's the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 1. Now Maccabees and his company, the Lord guiding them, recovered the temple and the city.
Right, so eventually, like I said, it was about 3 campaigns that, or 3 wars that we had to fight, that we had to wage against these Greeks and these Romans, man. And eventually we won. The Maccabees won. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 2. But the altars which the heathen had built in the open street, and also the chapels, they pulled down.
Right, so all their altars that the heathens built, because remember they brought their idols in there, they built their own altars. Even the altar that was already built by Israelites before they came in, they had to tear that down because it was unclean, it was defiled. It became impure, it became unclean. So they had to destroy all of that. They had to take all that down and rebuild everything brand new. All right. So it says, but the altars which the heathen or the nations, the word heathen, when you see the word heathen, it means nations. Okay. Go ahead.
And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar.
Right. So they end up cleansing the temple, and they cleansed it with, they did certain ceremonies. You read about that in the book of Leviticus. According to the law, they had to cleanse it with, with water, with oil, with blood. When I mean blood, I mean certain sacrifices they had to perform to cleanse the altar and the temple and so forth. Go ahead.
And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar, and striking stones, they took fire.
They said they made another altar and striking stones, meaning they took the stones and they. You see how they do it on the nature shows or something. They strike, they hit the stones and it causes a spark. Yeah. They make fire. Go ahead.
And striking stones, they took fire out of them and offered a sacrifice after 2 years and set forth incense and lights and showbread.
Right. It says, and having cleansed the temple, they made an altar, and striking stones, they took fire out of them and offered a sacrifice after 2 years.
Verse 4. When that was done, they fell flat down.
Right, but let me read verse 3 again, because I want to bring out, matter of fact, go ahead. We'll go back to that. So it says, and when they was done, they fell flat down, meaning they began to pray. All right, and when they prayed, they fell flat down their whole body was laying flat on the ground. Go ahead.
And when this was done, they fell flat down and besought Yahweh that they might come no more into such troubles. But if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy, and that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations.
Right. Matter of fact, read verse 3 again.
All right. It's the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 3. And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar.
Right, so they cleansed the temple and they made themselves another altar. Go ahead.
And striking stones, they took fire out of them and offered a sacrifice after 2 years and set forth incense and lights and showbread.
Right, so now this is where you get the Feast of Lights from. So it says, in having cleansed the temple, they made another altar. So they cleansed the temple of the old altar. Mm-hmm. In other words, the old altar, which was defiled, it couldn't be used no more. Because why? They had sacrificed swine on that altar. These damn devils had sexual orgies on that altar. So that altar was unclean. It was unfit. So they had to sanctify a new altar, right? It says, in having cleansed the temple, they made another altar. Mm-hmm. And striking stones, they took fire out of them and offered a sacrifice after 2 years. And set forth incense and lights and showbread. That's why it's also known as what? It's also known, this is what they call the Feast of Dedication or the Feast of Lights or Hanukkah. All right, and the story or what they call the oral tradition of the Feast of Hanukkah or the Feast of Lights is that when they went to light the menorah, they only had enough oil for one day. So because it took 8 days for them to purify or for them to be able to make that particular oil to use on what they call the candelabra, okay, the menorah or the candlestick, all right, which is the seven candlesticks. But they say that it was a miracle in that, like I said, they only had enough oil for one day. But the oral tradition is that it lasted for 8 days. So the oil, it was only enough for one day and ended up lasting for 8 days. Okay? And if if anybody says that seems far-fetched, that's the same thing that happened with who was it? Elisha? Was it Elisha? Right? Or was it Elijah? One of them brothers. When he went to the widow woman. Mm-hmm. You ever read that story?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah.
I think it's in Kings. And yeah. She said she only has enough oil and bread for her son for one day. And that they was gonna eat that and then die. Mm-hmm. You know, they basically, because it was a famine in the land.
I think that was Elijah.
Yeah, it could have been Elijah. Yeah. And he said, you know, don't worry about it. So that oil lasted until, you know, whenever the famine was done. So that's what happened during this time. The Most High showed forth that miracle, that you know, to show that he was with it. He was with them. You know what I'm saying? But that's when you get the what they call the Feast of Lights. Go ahead.
All right. Verse 5. I'm going to read verse 4. Verse 4. When that was done, they fell flat down and besought the Lord that they might come no more into such troubles. But if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy, and that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations. Mm-hmm. Verse 5. Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again.
Right.
Even the 5.
Well, read that verse again.
Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again. Mm-hmm. Even the 25th day of the same month, which is Keslu. Right.
So they cleansed the temple on the very same day that the heathens went in there. However so many years ago it was that they went in there and profaned it. They ended up cleansing it on the very same day. You know, years later after they won them wars. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, so people don't get confused. So it's the I can't think of that word, but if you said if it's the first of this year, it's the first of next year.
Right, right.
Saying the same day,
right? Not the like same day according to the according to the new moon. Yeah. So it's gonna tell you. Go ahead. Oh no, matter of fact, it says and upon. Right, it says, read that again. It says, verse 5.
Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again, even the 20th day of the same month.
Right, so whatever you know, that month that they had profaned it, the 25th day of that month, which I believe is either the 12th month, right?
Yeah, I think it was
or the 13th month,
the 9th or something like that. Maybe something like it'll be December, I believe, though.
Right, or the 12th month in our time. Let me see. It should say it, but we'll get it in a second. It says, and upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, and the word profane means pro means outside, and fane means temple. So it's something that's outside of the temple. It's something that's out, you know, it's unholy. right? It says, and upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again, even the 25th day of the same month, which is Caslu. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And they kept 8 days with gladness.
Right. It said, and they kept 8 days with gladness. Like I said, and that's in what they call the oral traditions. You know, certain books from dating back from that time tell you about that story. All right, how the oil, there was only enough oil for 1 day, and it ended up lasting for 8 days. Go ahead.
And they kept 8 days with gladness.
Right, and that 8 days was symbolic. You know, that's when you was to sacrifice. I mean, not sacrifice, but circumcise and make a sacrifice for your son. When you had a son, you would wait 8 days, and you would bring him to the temple, and you would circumcise him, and then perform a sacrifice for your son. All right, that's what they did with Yahweh Shai, and that's what I'm gonna try to, you know, through the Spirit, I'm gonna try to link this up with Yahweh Shai, because all of the high holy days go back to Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai said, I come in the volume of the book, it is written of me, and we're gonna show, Lord willing, we'll show how even this high holy day is really referring to Yahweh Shai. All right, go ahead, read on.
All right. And they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the Feast of Tabernacles.
Right, it was as in the Feast of Tabernacles. It was just like the Feast of Tabernacles. The Feast of Tabernacles, the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles is considered a Sabbath, and the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles is considered a Sabbath. So they did it just like the Feast of Tabernacles. Now, when you check out the Feast of Tabernacles, right, it talks about how you was to sacrifice. I'm not gonna I mean, we could go into that, but we press for time, but y'all brothers could look it up. But it talks about the sacrifices that were to be made. You had sacrifices like I'm just going off cuff right now, but you would have a certain number. All right, let's just say it was 12. Right, you had 12 lambs that you had to sacrifice on the first day. On the second day, you would sacrifice 11. You know what I'm saying? It would go down. So it was symbolic of the first day you had to sacrifice more lambs than you did on the last day. Why? Because every day it was like you was getting more righteous. You know what I'm saying? You was drawing closer to the Father. So you didn't need as many sacrifices. You understand? So this is similar to what is going on with the Feast of Lights or Hanukkah. Okay? Let's read verse 3 again, just so I can link all this up. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. It's the book of 2 Maccabees, verse 10, verse 3. Chapter 10, verse 3. And having cleansed the temple, they made another... When you come into this truth, you do what? First of all, let's go to 1 Corinthians, the 5th chapter. No, Salaki, the 3rd chapter, the 16th verse. 1 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, and the 16th verse. So when you come into this truth, right, the scriptures say that you are the temple of the Most High. So you have to cleanse your temple. You got it? Yep.
Go ahead, read it.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 16. Know ye not that
Meaning, don't you know? You should know this. Don't you know this? Go ahead.
Know ye not know thee not that ye are the temple of Yahweh.
Right, so we just read in Maccabees, right? It says, and having cleansed the temple. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to cleanse your temple. Now, we're supposed to do this regardless, right? But on certain high holy days, it's like the Most High, that's that time, man, right? To really start to cleanse your temple. You know what I'm saying? You have Passover, you have the Feast of Weeks, you have the Day of Atonement, you have Hanukkah, right? The Feast of Lights, right? That's those are those times when you really, you really examine yourself, man. You can do that all the time, of course, but that's like what they you don't like when you clean your house, right? You don't always clean every nook and cranny of your house, man. Sometimes you might do it like once a year, once every couple of months, right? They call it what? Spring cleaning. You go in, you clean out your basement. You go in, you clean on top of the refrigerator, right? You might move the refrigerator out and clean behind the refrigerator. You don't do that every week or every day. You know what I'm saying? You do it, every 3 months or once a year or whatever. That's the same thing you doing when it comes to these high holy days, man. These high holy days, you supposed to hunker down. You supposed to say, okay, this is where I'm gonna start examining myself. You know what I'm saying? Even more than what I usually do. Right? This is your spring cleaning, in other words. You cleaning out your temple, man. Okay, go ahead.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians. We are Corinthians or?
Yeah, Corinthians 3 verse 16.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of Yahweh?
Right, you are the temple of the Father. Go ahead.
And that the Spirit of Yahweh dwelleth in you.
Right, so you have to cleanse your temple. When you come into this truth, you have to cleanse your temple, man. And specifically during these high holy days, man. You cleanse your temple. You preparing yourself. You preparing yourself for the coming of the day of the Lord. Go ahead.
Verse 17. If any man defile the temple of Yahweh.
Right, if you defile your temple, what was his name again? That Edomite.
Which
was it Epiphanes? What was his name?
No.
Slakia, y'all. I'm having short-term memory loss sometimes. What's his name?
Oh,
Yeah, Antiochus Epiphanes. Right, Antiochus Epiphanes. What was Antiochus Epiphanes doing to the temple? They was having sexual orgies. They was eating swine's flesh. They was bowing down to idols. Right? They was they was passing laws that you not to circumcise your sons. And what are we doing? We doing the same thing. Before we came into this truth, we was eating swine's flesh. We was dabbling in orgies. You know what I'm saying? Whether you was having threesomes, you know what I'm saying? Dudes was just doing sexual immorality anyway, man. Trying to have sex with as many chicks as they can at one time and all that. You know what I'm saying? What else they be doing? Bowing down to idols.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? So we was doing all these things before we came into the truth. Now we have to what? Cleanse our temple. We have to put those things away, man. Go ahead, read on.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17. Read that again.
Mm-hmm.
If any man defile the temple of Yahweh, him shall God destroy. For the temple of Yahweh is holy.
Right, so the Most High will destroy you. Especially if you come into this truth. Once you wake up to this truth, then you're supposed to put away that swine's flesh. You're supposed to put away, the sexual immorality. What else? The worshiping of idols. The idol worshiping.
Swine eating.
Right, the swine eating. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff is of the world, man. Go ahead.
Verse 18. Let no man deceive himself.
No, that's good right there. Go to Corinthians 5 verse 6. Read that.
1 Corinthians, so?
Come.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 6. Your glorying is not good.
Right, your glorying is not good. Some of y'all come into this truth and you get high-minded. You get puffed up. You start thinking you know every damn thing. So it says your glorying is not good. You start glorifying in the wrong things, man. Go ahead.
What verse we on again?
Verse 6.
Your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump.
Right, and the leaven represent wickedness. It represent the world. It represent, you know, just a little bit of leaven can leaven the whole lump. A little bit of wickedness can leaven the whole lump. It could make all of you, you know, it could make the whole thing wicked, man. So you have to, well, it's going to tell you what you got to do. Read on.
Verse 7. Purge out therefore the old leaven.
Right, you have to purge out that old leaven. You have to purge it out. You have to cleanse your temple. You know, you have to make your temple fit for the spirit and the glory of the Lord to dwell inside you. Go ahead.
Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump.
Right, you are a new lump. Go ahead.
As ye are unleavened.
You become unleavened. A new lump meaning you a new man. You a new creature in the Most High. In Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Go ahead.
For even Yahweh Shai, our Passover, is sacrificed for us.
Right, he's known as the Passover. Meaning Yahweh Shai is in the Passover. He is that Passover lamb. He is that sacrificial lamb that sacrificed himself on the Passover for Israel. And also, when you go back to Hanukkah, okay, or the Feast of Lights, or the Feast of Dedication, all right, whichever way you want to call it, and it all basically means the same thing. You know, Yahweh Shai is also represented in that high holy day as well. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Verse 8. Therefore, let us keep the feast.
Right, you have to keep the feast, right? The Passover feast, the Feast of Dedication, the Feast of Lights, the Feast of Weeks, you know, the Feast of Tabernacles. You have to keep these feasts, all right? That's commanded of us in the scriptures, and not just keep them, right? You have to understand the spiritual significance behind these feasts. A lot of y'all brothers, y'all don't understand the spiritual significance behind these feasts. You just think it's a feast. You know, you think it's Passover, right? I'm gonna give me a nice garment. I'm gonna go get some wine, get drunk, and hang out. Nah, brother. You gotta understand the spiritual significance behind these feasts. And when you begin to understand these things, you find out that it all leads back to Yahweh Shai. You know, they say, you know, all roads lead back to Yahweh Shai, man. No matter where you go in these scriptures, it's going to lead back to Yahweh Shai. When he said, I come in the volume of the book, it is written of me, he meant what he said, man. You know? And it's up to you, you know, the Spirit to work on you and show you where he's at in these scriptures. You know, where are these high holy days, you know, what do they mean as far as pointing to Yahweh Shai, you know? And we'll break, you know, within time we'll put all those breakdowns out there. But go ahead, read on.
It says, therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven.
Right, that's that old man that ate swine's flesh, that bowed down to idols, that you know, was wicked as hell, sold drugs, you know what I'm saying, hated his own people, wanted to kill his own people, you know, angry for no damn reason. You don't even know why you angry, but you angry. You know what I'm saying? You running around, you know, thinking you're going to be the next porn star or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You want to, what's that, the next male gigolo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thinking how many women I could slay in one night. You know what I'm saying? That's what our people, that's the mentality of our people, man. You know? Go ahead.
Neither with the leaven of malice.
Right, it says, therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice. Malice, hatred. Okay, we don't keep these feasts with hatred, man. You don't go to a feast and have hatred in your heart for your brothers. Especially within Israel. Especially within your camp or your congregation. Go ahead.
Not with old leaven, neither with leaven of malice and wickedness.
Right, because that's wickedness, man. When you have hatred for your brothers, you know, when you have jealousy and strife amongst brothers, that's wickedness, man. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
But with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
Right, it has to be within sincerity and truth. Now let's go back to the book of Maccabees. and read the 10th chapter, the 3rd verse again.
It's the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 3. And having cleansed the temple, they made another altar. And striking stones, they took fire out of them, and offered a sacrifice after 2 years, and set forth incense and lights and shewbread.
Right, and that shawbread, that's that shawbread, which was, it was you had a, when they made the shawbread, they would put 12 loaves, 1 loaf for each tribe. All right, they would put 1 loaf for each tribe, and they would put oil on it, and frankincense and myrrh, if I'm not mistaken. All right, and that was shawbread, holy bread, and it was only allowed to be eaten by the priests, okay, by Levi or the priest at that time. All right, but that was like we was talking about what they call like an oral tradition, because we find out when you read the scriptures that David, who wasn't of the tribe of Levi, was able to eat that bread. So there were certain laws, that was within the scriptures that were flexible. You know what I'm saying? That there was laws that were like, for instance, like we just talked about, that bread was specifically for Levi, the shawbread, but David was allowed to eat it, when he was hungry. That's why when Yahweh Shai used that example.
Right, when they were eating on the Sabbath.
When they were eating on the Sabbath. He said it's not when the Pharisees and so forth questioned him about his disciples eating on the Sabbath. Or eating working, yeah. But they was eating grain. And what it was when they it wasn't just that they picked it, but when they ate it, right, you would rub the wheat, you would rub it in your hand, right? And then blow the chaff away like that. And then you would eat that. So it wasn't just that they picked it, right? It ain't like they just picked the apple and just ate it. No, they took the wheat and then they rubbed it in their hand, right? And then they considered that work. You know what I'm saying? That's what they was being offended by. Like, yo, they breaking the Sabbath, But anyway,
it was being petty.
Right, they didn't understand the law. See, you had Israelites, like again, we'll talk about what they call oral tradition, or so you had Israelites that followed, like the Pharisees and Sadducees, they followed what they call oral tradition, or right, what Yahweh Shai called it, the tradition of your fathers. So they began to put the oral they began to put the oral tradition over the scriptures. This is what Yahweh Shai was condemning them about, because this is what he brought. He brought them. He was saying, look, we have to deal with this law. The law y'all dealing with is not this. You dealing with the oral tradition. Now, the oral traditions, there's certain things that are on point, but there's a lot of things that are not on point. And this is what Yahweh Shai was trying to tell them. Or this is what he was telling them. And this is what they couldn't understand. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to put down what they call the Talmud and the all them other books. See, a lot of so-called Jews still deal with that. The Talmud, the Mishnah. You know what I'm saying? They deal with these books. And our people was dealing with, because our people were the one that wrote those books. Esau didn't write those books. It was Israelites back then wrote those books. But the problem with those books they're a collection of those books are a collection of a whole bunch of rabbis. All right, what they call rabbis, or what we call rabbis, Rabbia, right, which means master in the Hebrew. So those books were written by black Hebrew Israelites, but they were not all on point, man. They were going off. A lot of them were going off. You know what I'm saying? So for instance, I believe it's the Talmud, You could read about Gamaliel's works are in the Talmud. That's the brother that taught Paul. Okay, his works are in the Talmud. But the problem with those books is, like I said, they were going off. And what our people began to do was they was putting those books before the Bible. They was putting them over the Bible. You understand? So this is what Yahweh Shai was condemning them about. He said, when he said, you know, you following the tradition of your fathers. You know? But anyway, let's read on.
It's the book of Maccabees, chapter 10.
Okay, yeah.
We on verse, want to do 3 again or go to 4?
No, you go to 4.
Go to 4.
Done.
Alright. When that was done, they fell flat down and besought the Lord that they might come no more into such troubles.
Right. So that's what we have to do when we come into this truth. We have to repent. You know, we have to repent of you know, our sins and so forth. You know what I'm saying? Let's check. Okay, the battery's dying. All right, so we have to repent. But let's read on.
But if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy, and that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations.
Right, it says, read that again real quick.
But if they sin any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy.
So they prayed to the Most High that if Israel was to sin again, that he would chasten them with mercy. Now we already know the Most High did not answer this prayer. You know what I'm saying? Because Israel sinned again. And the Most High did not show no mercy on us. You know what I'm saying? So but he's eventually, you know, he's going to eventually show us mercy when Yahweh Shai makes his second coming. The elect, he's going to show the elect mercy. You know, but as far as the nation is concerned, he didn't show us mercy for sinning again. But technically, if you really want to get technical, he did, because he brought us Yahweh Shai. And that's another point that I want to bring out, is that if it was not for the Maccabees fighting these Greeks and these Romans, fighting these wars, there would be no Israel today. There would have been no Israel for the Messiah to come to. You know what I'm saying? Because Israel would have been totally destroyed. Our records would have been destroyed. They was getting rid of all the Bibles. They was burning all the Bibles. They was burning all the scrolls of Israel. So it was and the Maccabees, the war of the Maccabees was about 200 years before Yahweh Shai. So this war took place. They dedicated the temple. 200 years later, Yahweh Shai was born. You understand? And then you had the 70 AD. So all this, like they call it the butterfly effect. If this did not occur, then we would not be here right now.
Right.
This is why we hold this high holy day, and we read about the brothers, the Maccabees brothers, and read about their sacrifice and their dedication. Go ahead. Read that again.
This is the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 4. When that was done, they fell flat down and besought the Lord that they might come no more into such troubles. But if they sinned any more against him, that he himself would chasten them with mercy.
Right. So physically, he didn't answer that prayer, but spiritually he did. Because physically he didn't answer that prayer, because we was chastened again, because we was brought back into captivity. We was overthrown in 70 AD. But spiritually, he chastened us with mercy because the Messiah was born. 200 years after this prayer was put out there, the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, was born and saved and chastened Israel with mercy, man. Go ahead. Through his death. Read on.
And that they might not be delivered unto the blasphemous and barbarous nations.
Right, go ahead.
Verse 5. Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again, even the 25th day of the same month, which is Caslu. Verse 6. And they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the feast of the tabernacles, remembering that not long before they had held the feast of the tabernacles, when as they wandered in the mountains in dens like beasts. Verse 7. Therefore they bear branches and fair bows.
Right, hold on real quick. So it says, verse 6, it says, and they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the feast of the tabernacles. Again, that 8 days is spiritual. You know, when the son is born, right? When Yahweh Shai was born, they brought him 8 days to the temple. 8 days later after his birth, they brought him to the temple. They sacrificed, I believe it's 2 turtle doves. And then they circumcised them on the 8th day. It says, remembering that not long ago they had held the Feast of Tabernacles. It says, when as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts. So this happened in the wilderness when we came out of Egypt. That's why they had the Feast of Tabernacles, is to remind you how we were in the wilderness, how we was. When it says wilderness, it means basically it means in the wild. You're in the wildness. You know what I'm saying? You're in the elements, man. Right? That's what that means. So when you're in the tabernacles, you're in the elements. All right. You don't have running water or soft bed to lay your head in. You're in the elements. Okay. It says and this that's why they said it reminded them of that, because why? These brothers, they were one of the first guerrilla warriors. They practiced guerrilla warfare. All right, and where did they get the idea of guerrilla warfare from? They got it from one of the greatest warriors, Hannibal. And Hannibal, by the way, was a Hebrew Israelite. Hannibal was an Israelite that